our city manager. Leslie made a big point of saying, we have a $105,000 city manager and with benefits around 150 grand. Wow, we can't afford that kind of stuff. All right, let's clear up the lies right off the bat. Brenda is CFO and Chief Executive Officer, or our general manager. So she holds two jobs, which I actually disagree with. I think the idea of your CFO should be a checks and balances. You should have a city manager and a CFO. The CFO is critical. The projections on the revenues, the monies that the city is going to receive over the course of a year, the work that they do as far as the accounting, the predicting of where the city's going to be with finances and where it needs to be with employee salaries, things like that is just really involved critical work. Just so happens Brenda's an expert. She's very good at this. She's actually very good at several forms of accounting. She's extremely well versed in Excel and spreadsheets, and she can give you a document that will make sense of basically stuff that just doesn't make sense. Reports is what they're called. Brenda is very capable in knowing different types of financing, what's required for financing. And one of the things my council struggled with greatly was Great Northern, who did our community development block grants and economic development block grant loans. And that company was taking a good 25% of the money from those grants to administrate them and not doing what they were supposed to do. They were not administrating correctly. And Brenda has the ability to work as a loan officer and get the loans collateralized correctly and in the interest of the city of Dunsmuir, which has been the big problem with those loans. Now, as a city manager, Brenda's main job is to make sure the day-to-day business of the city is in happening, that the employees are getting their stuff done, that they're focused, and that they're heading on projects. Brenda does a great job of that. Brenda is also to interface with the citizens, everyone from the contractors to the local businesses and their concerns. She's also very involved in all the many sundry community events and organizations, and tries to provide what support the town can. The big thing about the 105 is she's doing two jobs. And quite frankly, we paid a city manager 105 for doing one job. So Brenda's doing some good for the city right now. She's saving us from having to come out of pocket in some really lean years. The last few years have been lean. I think TOT was like 160 grand when I was on council. TOT now is about 80 grand, somewhere around in there. TOT is used for the town's general fund, as well as for a very small, modest amount for supporting the Chamber of Commerce. The property tax revenues, sales tax revenues, I believe, are down. That's the money that the city basically takes care of the streets with. It keeps the staff and offices going. We do portion that out to all the other enterprises, but the lion's share is on the general fund. Big experience I've had with Brenda and working with Brenda is, if you know me, there's going to be things I disagree with, and I tend to push. I don't want the simple answer. You're going to give me an answer, it better be good, because I'm going to check it out. I'm going to look and see. I've had many talks with Brenda about many ideas for the town. And in fact, I was on a group that hired Brenda, and I'm very proud that I hired her. She was a wonderful find, and the city's great fortune to have her. But I didn't always agree with Brenda, and I've tested Brenda many, many times. But Brenda's always been able to satisfy my feelings about things. I mean, I know that the city doesn't move fast enough. It doesn't do things that I would like it to do in as timely manner as I would like it. But I also know that Brenda is one of the hardest working, most ethical, honest people you'll ever find. And I'll tell you what, anyone that hires employees and deals with employees, when you find someone that's extremely hard-working, ethical person, you got a gem. And Brenda is a gem for this town. There are a couple councilmen that are having difficulties with Brenda. There's reasons for that. City managers are bonded. There are things they can do and not do. Financial officers are bonded. There are things they can do and not do legally. You can't ask them to break the law. It's a professional job. They come and go through the cities. Usually, Brenda's been here quite a few years, but usually 3-4 years, and they've moved on. But Brenda cares about the city of Dunsmuir and wants to see the city of Dunsmuir make it through. We probably got another 3-4 lean years in Dunsmuir before it turns the corner and we get a little bit more solvent. Brenda brought the city through the last 3-4 year cycle in a very good position. I mean, we didn't run into the red. We didn't have to lay off any employees. We haven't had to cut back too much on services, and she's brought, as we all know, quite a bit of grant money to the city, and she still looks forward to finding more grant money for the city, and that's one of the reasons we were hiring her, is that she was able to go out and find and get grants. So the issues I find with our council and Brenda, to me, are just silly. The problem is they're asking her, A, to do things, and B, they're telling her what to do, and they're not doing their work, and they're not realizing what her job is. Her job is to run our city, and it is somewhat to look to the future with council's direction. Her job is to fulfill council's dream wish. Their list, they get together a list, and then this is where we want to go, this is where we're heading. Brenda, help us get there, which I don't believe they've identified, since Leslie's been on there, any kind of vision or direction for council. And also, I'll tell you honestly, in government, you got to ask the right questions. I had to ask questions maybe 3 or 4 different ways where I finally got an answer about what I wanted. I mean, it's tricky. You got to actually be pretty smart to be on council. Not that I was, but you have to understand it's a bureaucracy, and there's ways things happen and bureaucracies work. But Brenda's job is not the handmaiden to council. Brenda's job is not, facilitating their every wish and desire. Brenda's job is not to go out and find money so that council can spend it on something. Brenda's job is to run the city and make sure there's a little bit of money left at the end of the year, that we don't run into trouble. I mean, there's every few months we're making bond payments, loan payments. We've been able to make ours and make them all on time. That's a Brenda thing. We've been able to apply for and get grants, and grants that are handed out to the cities in the form of economic development block grants and community development block grants. And she's been able to identify a way that we can keep as much of the money internally and give it to the people to benefit the people as possible. In the community development block grants, there are several programs that are designed for old housing stock like Dunsmuir has, with plumbing issues, with electrical issues, with weatherization issues, and you got to keep in the grant cycle. You got to convince people in the community to utilize them. And she's been pretty good about that, it's a huge mistake what they're doing to Brenda. It's worse than abuse, and the real problem is she's so good at her job, and it's their inability and inexperience as mature adults to be able to understand and deal with her. I've dealt with her. I've disagreed with her. I agree with her about 90% of the time. Many times I bring things up and she shoots them down. I understand. I mean, from her standpoint and from the city standpoint, they're not good ideas. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful things the city can do, but there's only so much the city really has the ability to do financially. It's basically providing services, the garbage, sewer, water, the airport. That's the services it provides, and that's its reason for existence. So when you hear all this Leslie stuff about how disobedient Brenda is, the worst boondoggle of all of it was hiring of Hicks.